views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to the transformative show, We Carry the Light, with host Dr. Susan Allison, the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. Who are you right now? And who do you want to be? What is it that makes you happy, helps you feel fulfilled, and living your purpose? Tune in and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine. Now, here is your host, Dr. Susan Allison.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to We Carry the Light. This is Dr. Susan. I'm so glad you're here today, either listening live or to the archive show. So how is everything in your life? I always ask you that, and then I share a bit about what's been happening for me. I am trying to get back to reality since I've been in Mexico for a week with my family. There were 10 of us at this incredible resort where I go every year. And we've been eating incredible food and swimming and running on the beach. So now I had to come home without the person who made my omelet and the woman who made my smoothie every morning. It was quite a shock to come back without them, but it was a great trip. So I have been thinking a lot about health this week, and part of it is reading this wonderful book, Sleep Your Fat Away, and we're going to have the guests on in a bit. I have really been noticing some great things about myself. I'm a healthy eater. I really feel so grateful for an early mentor in my life named Judy Wardell Halliday, who founded a program called Thin Within. And I think it had to have been at least 25 years ago that I met Judy and became an assistant in her program. So she taught me to only eat when I'm hungry, to really check in and see what my hunger number is before eating. She taught me to eat only foods that appeal to me from deep down and not eat, carrots and celery if I hate them. And she also taught me to stop eating when I'm comfortable, no sensation of fullness or emptiness, kind of like Goldilocks. I feel just right when I stop eating. Of course, years ago, I can remember Thanksgivings where I would have to lie down and I was so full and I just can't stand that feeling. So her program helped me never, ever do that again. So this week, I read Roy and Joy's it's a breakthrough book that's incredible. And it's called Sleep Your Fat Away. And I just loved it. And imagine all of you just going to sleep and letting go of pounds, just letting them melt away, which is what their book tells you that you can do. So I think their book is going to help millions of people, and their program already is far-reaching. And if you have tried everything to lose weight, then here is something that truly works. Joy and Roy Martina are world leaders in helping people get back in their power. Joy Martina is a rapid change coach, the creator of the Crystalline Oracle training. She's a master hypnotist, a trainer of trainers, and co-author of 6 books. World-renowned holistic medical doctor and European thought leader Roy Martina, MD, is the creator of the Omega Healing Method and author of over 70 books, currently translated into more than 10 languages, including the international bestseller Emotional Balance. For nearly 3 decades, Roy has trained over 250,000 people worldwide, including doctors, professors, therapists, coaches, and managers. Both Roy and Joy are passionate about health, longevity, and fitness. They say we are health food lovers, exercise maniacs, happiness addicts, and never go to bed angry or stressed. And together they've created a groundbreaking approach to weight loss, which we'll be talking about today, again called Sleep Your Fat Away. We're lucky to have them here, and welcome, Joy and Roy.
Oh, thank you so much for having us on. We're excited to be here. It's a pleasure to connect with you.
Thank you. And I think it's you, Joy, but I loved all your references to the book. You must be from the UK or from somewhere, because you used the word mum, and you used all these words that I lived in the UK for a year, and so it was so endearing to me to read that in your book.
Well, thank you for that feedback. Yes, I was born in England, and I'm trying to adapt and, use also more American English words, but yeah, they do slip through still.
Yeah, especially when you were talking about your childhood in the book.
And a lot of stories to tell there.
Yeah, it was, but I wanted to tell you that was sweet for me. I lived in Leeds, which is not the most beautiful city in England, but I was there at the university on a sabbatical.
Nice. Did you enjoy yourself?
I loved it, and my son came back with a very thick Yorkshire accent. It was hysterical. He's, and I lost the tape of it. I was so upset because even recently we were talking, and I said I taped you because you'd play football in the streets and go to the sweet shop, and you had this accent within like a few weeks. So anyway,
it's funny. Your children learn so quickly, don't they?
They sure do. So, I always start with the personal, and I'd love for the two of you to talk about your own issues, perhaps with food, with weight, and if that indeed was a catalyst, one of them anyway, a catalyst for writing the book.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I'm the one struggling the most with weight issues here. And what happened to me was that when I was 6 years old, I started with the martial arts training, got into competition, and in martial arts, you have with these weight classes, and it was always just a few pounds over at the weight that I wanted to fight in. So I started, I think already when I was 8 years old, with fasting and trying to lose weight and stuff like that. And I had a very successful career as a martial artist. So I've been, I would say, yo-yoing my metabolism at least for 20 years. So when I stopped competing at a high level, after becoming a European champion and so on, and I had to focus on, doing my residency in medicine, I couldn't train as much as before. And that's when I really started getting a weight issue. Mm-hmm. And if I do not exercise 2-3 hours a day, I would balloon. And that was my biggest frustration for years and years and years. So I've been always on and off dieting, and in the end, not very successful. And I think it's like 3 years ago that, 3-4 years ago, right? That my daughter Grace, she pointed at my belly and asked me if there was a baby in there. Oh. And that was my awakening moment. And it was, yeah, huh?
No, I was just laughing.
Yeah. Because I was very good in denial for a long time. And that's when Joy and I decided we needed something that was not focused on dieting, because that obviously wouldn't work for me. So we started researching, and we're looking at how the subconscious mind work and emotional stuff and all of that. And basically we kind of put together different pieces from different areas and adding on our own experience. And that's I was the first, I would say, call this guinea pig for testing out the system. And I lost weight so easily, and everybody, of course, noticed. And that's when people start asking, what are you guys doing? We want this as well. And we start training therapists and doctors to use the same method, but it was all one-on-one. And we decided then to create a system that would be for a bigger audience that people can do at home. And that's how Feed You Fat Away came into existence.
Wonderful. See, I love it when it comes from something that we really need or are struggling with in our own lives, and then it feels so authentic to people, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm the living proof, and until the day of today, and exactly what you said about conscious eating, to be be aware how you're eating. That's a big part of what we do as well. That in itself already changes the whole game. You not just put food in your mouth and swallow it, but you really take your time and focus on it and stop immediately when the hunger or the emptiness is gone and not go over that limit. That's exactly one of the ingredients that we use in our system as well.
Yes, I know. I love that you had that. I went, oh, I know about that. I love the conscious eating concept with several, people like Janine Roth. But see, Janine Roth actually studied with Judy Wardell. So, yeah, and she wrote her books and became more famous. But it's my belief that Judy Wardell was the person to first come up with that idea of conscious eating.
Yeah, it's such an important part of this whole food issue. So where my story comes in is that food was always a very emotional matter for me. So I remember growing up at home with a mum who was a great cook and a beautiful mum, and I thought everything was right until I noticed that at dinner times it was so often that, we would all be chomping away at our food and mum would be sitting there with half a grapefruit. And then I started sort of realizing as a child, what is this whole weight issue? Because, when we're little, we have no idea. We're born as healthy, normal babies, hopefully. We cry when we're hungry, we're fed, and that's the end of the story. But it was really interesting in part of the research that we did for Sleep Your Fat Away is to really unravel that ball of emotions and beliefs and everything that's surrounding the issue of food and weight and body image. And that's what I found was really, really helpful to re-examine not only my childhood, but also how I felt about my own body. So I've never been overweight or termed as overweight, but I've always struggled with my body image. I've always struggled with this idea of how slim should you be, how slim is healthy, and then all these different indexes you go by. And for me, the goal was more to feel completely comfortable in my body, to really like how I looked and felt, and to know that I'm really healthy. So I feel that's a really important part of Sleep Your Fat Away. This is just not some more, diet craze, or this is not the latest fad, but this really is about changing from the inside so we become those healthy, slim people that we deserve to be.
Yes, no, I love it. And it's a lifestyle change, isn't it, rather than a diet?
Absolutely. That is exact. Thank you so much for saying that, because that's exactly what Sleep Your Fat Away is all about. It's a lifestyle change we need, not another diet.
And it's also an awakening of your consciousness and getting out of the negative spiral of being a victim, not knowing what to do, and also becoming more aware of what we call the food industry, how they use their power and capital to influence us. Starting already very young. Just look at McDonald's with Happy Meals and stuff like that. So it's also a kind of awakening. Yeah.
Packaging. If you look at the packaging of kids, sort of specially targeted kids' foods in the grocery stores with all stores with all the colors, and then you read what they're putting into our children's foods, it makes you feel sick. It's as a conscious person, you cannot feed those sort of things to your children. And that's the sort of message we feel so eager and so passionate about getting out there, because so much of what's happening with this epidemic of obesity is that there's just not enough knowledge in the general population about these things. We need to know how we're being manipulated to be able to fight against it.
Yeah, no, in fact, I was going to ask you about this later, but I think we'll bring it in now. The food industry and and advertising as well are really working against us as human beings. And how do we beat their tricks?
Well, I think what's important to be able to find out how we beat the tricks is to understand why they're doing it. Yep. The food and diet industry is not interested in keeping us as healthy and slim as possible, but they're just interested in selling as many products as possible.
That's right.
So once you know that and realize that it really is just that simple, what you need to do the next time you go into your grocery store is a really simple exercise. You take the food that you're about to put in your trolley and you turn it around and you read the labels. Now, my rule is if I cannot pronounce what's in the thing, I will not buy it.
Yeah.
So you just need to keep an eye out of what is being added to perfectly good and natural food. And, you know, once you see all the E's and the colors and the artificial flavors and the amount of sugar that's being put in, it's not surprising that we're getting so hooked. So rule number one to stop, to fight against this manipulation is to read the labels of the food that you're about to buy and ask yourself, is this really the best I can do for my body?
Yeah, and what I would like to add to that is that the food industry is very, very smart. They know that we get addicted very easily. So if you look at the brain and the receptors for sugar are quite similar to cocaine. So, so basically, they want us to get addicted to empty food that will have us eat more of it. So, and that's the whole game of the food industry, is that they use science against us. So they know exactly the amount of fat and sugar to put in the food to make it taste good. And the general rule as a holistic doctor, I tell my patients, and I'm not talking about people who are sick, is that the more processed the food is, the more it's going to stop you from becoming healthy again. So if we just look at food as a healing, I would say a healing modality, you want to stay as close to nature as possible in order for your body to function properly. And the more it's processed, the more your body has to deal with the toxins that comes with the food, dealing with the too much sugar in the food. So it becomes really a chemical warfare in your body eating processed foods.
That's right. You know, I've been off sugar for 2 years. And and I can have stevia. And there's also a product that I can have that's made from birch bark, xyla. And I can have a little of that, but I don't really have it very often. I'm not interested. But 2 years off of sugar. And in fact, I went to the doctor for an annual checkup, and you should see my numbers. She was like stunned. My numbers are like, I mean, perfect. And they weren't perfect 2 years ago in terms of cholesterol and some other things. But sugar, and I'm speaking to a medical doctor here, but you know, sugar affects everything. And I just wanted to say that on the air, that it's completely changed my life.
Absolutely. I would like to add to that. People, you know, always talk about, you know, being addicted to alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. And we have all kinds of treatments and therapies. But the most missed one is the sugar addiction. And it starts very young, and we totally get addicted to it. And it's actually sometimes more destructive than some of the drugs people use for recreational uses. But most of the public wouldn't know this.
Well, and also, you know, we need to see what is it doing to our brains. How is it making us not only addicted, but it's also making us buy into the idea that we can be fooled that easily. So I always think it's funny when people start getting worried about, is this going to, is this hypnosis? Is this going to train something in my brain? Because, the audios and the sleep program that we developed to sleep your fat away, yes, it does train your brain. Yes, it does have elements of hypnosis in there. But people were being hypnotized the whole time. Every TV program you watch late at night while you fall asleep to it, or the radio having running in the background the whole time, that is all manipulation. That is all hypnotizing you as well. So I think it's really important to also educate in the way of saying, how do we train our brain in the right way so we can not only fight against the manipulation from people that we don't want to be manipulated by, for instance, the food and diet industry, but how can we literally strengthen our brain so that we feel better about ourselves, we can make healthier food choices, and just have a generally better quality of life.
Absolutely true. Yeah, so, and I, you're talking about kind of the insanity of that, the insanity of being sort of brainwashed by the industry and by advertising. And I think there's, part of that industry, isn't it, diets and diet pills. And even you mentioned exercise can make us fat, which I thought was a very interesting part of your book.
Yeah, that was also a fact that really surprised me of that exercise is not just exercise. I used to do the opposite. So up until about the age of 25, I was the laziest person on this planet. My motto was no sports, like Winston Churchill. But when I discovered the joys of exercising, I experienced also what it's like to be addicted to exercise. So I was more addicted to running. Running just gave me that high that I wasn't finding in elsewhere in my life. At that time, I was going through a very unhappy marriage, and running was keeping me sane. But at the same time, I was addicted to it. So I was doing these long, you'd now say this long, boring cardio for hours every day. So what happens there is that our body goes either into the depletion mode, that's what happened with me, or we even start putting on weight. So that was really interesting to Sleep Your Fat Away, to do that research and see that high-intensity workouts, so short bursts of high-intensity training, and then, allowing your heart to relax down again and have some more calmer bits. So you're constantly alternating, you're constantly keeping your heart active, is the best exercise you can do to lose weight. So you don't need to go onto the exercise bike or the treadmill for 45 minutes every day. You can be done with exercise in just 4 minutes by making sure it's the right exercise.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm a walker. I walk with my dog, and it works for me. And I have a mountain bike, and I just do it for fun. And I also like the idea that people take their bodies out to play, that they don't see it as this, this whip. Have you ever seen runners that look absolutely miserable?
I know, that was me. I was one of them.
Miserable, they're like, and they often have like a knee brace on, but they're still pounding the pavement and hurting their body.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But you see, you were mentioning that you go walking with your dog.
Yep.
That is also something that you can combine with high-intensity training. So a very simple way of, for instance, walking the dog and losing weight while you're doing it is to walk a really, really fast pace for about 2 or 3 minutes until you're out of breath, then to slow it down again and take the next 3 minutes calm, then speed it up again. And in that way, you're training your heart. So you'll have two effects. One is that your heart will become stronger, which is what we always want, and you'll be shedding the fat. So that might be a tip for all the listeners, that when you're out walking next time, just make sure that you get out of breath a few times a day.
Yeah. I do that. I thought it was because I couldn't run a really long distance, so because I've always been kind of like a 50-yard dash person.
You were doing it right.
Hey, I want to keep doing it that way. Thank you. So, also the whole...
One little thing there to the exercise, because we're looking at exercise now in relationship to weight loss or to increase your metabolic rate. And what they found is with interval training, your metabolic rate stays up much longer than with aerobic. But what really interests me is that if we look at longevity and we look at the heart, is by interval training, we're making the heart much stronger, and that in itself will lead to a longer life. So it's not only for weight loss or feeling fit, but interval works better for a longer life than, for example, aerobic. So, for example, people who run long distances, they die much quicker than sprinters. If you look at the body of a sprinter versus a marathon runner, it's the difference of day and night. I would rather be a sprinter than a marathon runner if I look at the physique of sprinters. So it's just not about weight loss. It's really about improving the quality of life long term as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. In fact, I read an article, this was a few years ago, it was someone locally who just dropped dead. And he was a runner. And I know that there's a connection in terms of, also in terms of the electrolytes and in terms of really making sure you're giving your body the nutrients and not depriving it when you are so fanatical about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess I'd still like to talk a little bit about the diet industry. And so why don't diets and pills and all of that, and I mean, that's a $1 million or $1 billion business also. Why do they not work for people to go on a diet? I mean, I know tons of people right now who are on diets.
Yeah, most people are. Well, the statistics are pretty grim. If we look at the success of diets, it's only how many percent? It's about
4% of people go on a calorie-restricted diet will actually lose the weight and keep it off permanently. So 96% of people started a calorie-restricted diet will lose weight and then gain it back. Plus, you get a little punishment, you get a little bit more in general. So statistics are really, really bad.
But the reason why they don't work is the following. One is that a diet, in terms of how we approach it, is always seen as a short-term solution. So it's not something that we intend to do for the rest of our lives, maybe when we're highly motivated at the beginning. But if we're honest, we know that we're going to be doing this for a while. We're going to hopefully shed the weight that we want, and then we're going to go back to what we actually like eating and our normal habits and our normal lifestyle. Yeah. So that in itself is already a sign that this can never be something that's going to be sustainable. So sorry about that, Doctor. So most diets are based on the principle of deprivation. I actually want something else, but I'm forcing myself just for this time on my willpower to stick to a regime, to stick to something that somebody else has told me this is what you've got to eat. Yeah. And what we don't like about that approach is, it's on willpower. And we all know willpower just does not work. You've got to work with the system, with the subconscious mind to be able to achieve the results that you want. The other thing is that what happens when we're following a diet regime is that we're, again, not listening to our bodies. We're not training ourselves to become the detectives of what our body really needs in that moment. When are we thirsty? When are we really hungry? When are we actually just emotionally hungry? So maybe just bored, and that's why we're eating. So it takes us more and more away from our intelligence, this innate intelligence we're all born with, to be able to listen to our bodies. So that's, I believe, one of the reasons, or the two main reasons why diets don't work.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that is that most people are not aware that our mind is divided in two categories. One is called your conscious mind, and the other part is called your subconscious mind. If you would look at the power of the two, the conscious mind is where your willpower is more active. You have goals, and you hopefully become relentless in pursuing those goals. But your subconscious mind has a much greater power than your conscious mind. And if you look at the statistics, some science will say that your subconscious mind is 1 million times stronger than your conscious mind. Yeah. So one of the missing links that we see is that people do not get an alignment with the subconscious mind. If you just say the word diet, and you would measure, for example, the skin resistance of people, if they mention the word diet, the skin resistance goes up, which means the word itself is stressful. And then the next trigger is going to be diet means deprivation, diet means discipline, and these 3 Ds, discipline, deprivation, diet, are triggers for the subconscious mind. And like a little child, it will start resisting you, sabotage you, start giving you suggestions, and try to block or actually stop you from continuing the path of suffering and go back to the path of comfort. And that's why most people in the long run will quit and then, back to where they were.
We're going to have to take a break, but let's hold that thought that the 3 Ds absolutely do not work. And we're going to be back with Roy and Joy Martina.
Tune in to Prescience Life Radio with host Mia Simone. Mia is devoted to sharing her extensive knowledge on the invisible worlds of energy. Join Mia and discover the science of intuition and connect with your greatest gift. Start living in your potential today and every day by opening up to the power of inner knowledge. To learn more about Mia, visit presciencelife.com.
Become a self-actualized professional coach, mentor, and leader, and make your difference in the world. The Rainer Institute has trained people from 4 continents and is the top-rated, accredited coach platform in the world. You'll learn skills from a program created by Mark Rainer as a result of 35 years of research as to what actually works for positive, lasting change. Come if you dare and give your life a chance at making the difference it so desires. Visit RainerInstitute.com to learn more.
Doctor loves quickies.
Mary's about ready to give love the shove, 'cause no matter what she tries, guys don't know that she's alive. To turn guys on, she needs to turn on those green lights, nonverbal cues that say, over here. Most guys won't approach unless they're cleared for landing. So ladies, to kickstart your love life, turn on those green lights and flash your pearly whites. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf of AskDrLove.com.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome back, everyone, to We Carry the Light. This is Dr. Susan, and I'm talking to Joy and Roy Martina, who have written a book called Sleep Your Fat Away. Imagine that. You could go to bed at night. And, of course, there are going to be some wonderful messages, subliminal messages playing, in the background, which I want to have them talk about in a second. And they have an entire plan for a lifestyle change. This isn't like do your diet and get into your dress for your high school reunion. This is about your entire life changing in terms of your relationship to food and your body. So, Roy and Joy, I'd like you to tell people how to contact you, something about your website, what programs you are offering people, how to get your book. I'd love to do that now so we don't forget.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'd be happy. So we've got 2 options, basically. One is we've brought a book out called Sleep Your Fat Away, which you can get at your local bookstore on Amazon.com. The other thing we've developed is this program, which is a complete digital program that you download from the internet onto your laptop, computer, or cell phone or smartphone. And that consists of brain training audios that you at once sleep to. So you put them on your smartphone, you press play when you go to bed, and you just go to sleep at night. And while you're sleeping, you have this audio on at a barely audible level. That's really important that you don't have it on too loud. So it's just whispering in the background. And that's where we're literally bombarding your subconscious mind with all the positive affirmations and the positive beliefs and all those empowering things you need to have anchored in your subconscious mind to help you be really aligned with your weight loss goals. So that's part of the program, that you get the whole series of audios. But what we also have, which is really exciting, is the virtual gastric band. And that is an audio that you listen to during the day, once or twice, just at the beginning. And that is where you imagine having a gastric band operation. So it just takes place in your mind. And just by imagining that you've had this surgical bypass done, the effect is incredible. Your brain thinks it's had that done, so you will act accordingly, meaning that you will eat less. So, Roy, why don't you tell us what happened when you had the virtual gastric band installed? What changes do you notice?
What was interesting, we were following this course of an English hypnotist, and she was speaking about the virtual gastric band. And as a medical doctor, I know that, when we do a fake surgery, for example, if we open the chest for a heart surgery and we close it without touching the heart, that has an effect that is almost the same as real surgery. So it's something, I thought there was something about that line. But the difference is that consciously I know that there's no surgery going on. That was the big difference for me as a medical doctor. And so we were in this workshop, and then Joy said, let's practice. And so she did this session on me, and I came out and I thought nothing really happened. I know I didn't have a gastric band surgery. I don't have a scar tissue, and so on and so on. But after that, I couldn't eat as much as before. I was struggling to just eat half of what I was eating before. So for me, that was like a really big gift and a kind of a Kickstarter to the whole program of conscious eating and all of that, because it made everything else so much easier by feeling so quicker to be satisfied when you eat. And for me, that was the big change in starting this program.
And that's the feedback we've had from most people who've done the virtual gastric band audio, which is part of the program of Sleep Your Fat Away, is that it just helps you be more conscious of your eating. You eat slower, and you just don't eat as much because you feel full much, much sooner than beforehand.
And that's the trick for the subconscious mind. You see, deprivation, even though with Sleep Your Fat Away you might eat less, but you never feel deprived. So never that emotion kicks in. It's a similar thing to people go on a fast for spiritual reason. They're doing a fast, and they'll have a great purifying effect of it, but you're not starving. And with Sleep Your Fat Away, you never go into starvation mode, and it is the starvation mode that kicks the subconscious mind to resist the diet. And I think that's the most beautiful thing of this program as a starter.
Yeah. So you have the brain training audios for the night. We give subliminal messages, which is they're audios where you will just consciously hear music and subliminal messages that are all very empowering and for healthy body weight and that are put underneath the music. Those you can have when you're working or doing something that doesn't really require your attention. You have the virtual gastric band audio. Then we have 5 simple golden rules that you need to keep to make the program a success. And those are very, very simple things, such as that you need to eat slowly and consciously and without distraction. And that's a biggie, because most of us eat sort of in a by-the-way way. We're usually multitasking. We're usually in a hurry. We're super busy. And food just becomes something that we rarely really take time for. So we'll eat in the car, between meetings, while we're working, but not focus on our food fully. And what happens when we do that, when we eat in this by-the-way, distracted way, is that we're not giving our body the chance, or better, our stomach the chance to send that message to the brain saying, I'm full. So part of the rules that we have are, for instance, eat slowly and consciously. And all of that comes with a really simple guidebook that helps you just take you through the day and gives you the hints you need to know what do you do when you're emotionally hungry, for instance. Because that's I think the beauty of the learning part of this program is that you learn to make that difference. When am I really hungry and when am I emotionally hungry? And if you learn that difference, you will already create change in your life.
Yeah, in fact, let's talk about that, because you do have a section of your book of showing people how to tell if they're, it's real hunger or it's emotional hunger. So do you have any tips about that?
Yeah, I've shortened it down for our listeners so it's something they can take away with from today. The next time you think you're hungry, I'd like you just to take 1 or 2 deep breaths in and out and notice, did this feeling suddenly jump on me, or has it been a feeling that has grown? Because you see, real hunger grows on you. It becomes more and more intense. So the longer you don't eat, the more hungry you get. Emotional hunger feels like a sudden attack. So it's something where something has triggered us in our life, something happened that created or triggered this feeling of hunger, but it's not really hunger. And when that happens, you need to give yourself those 3 breaths to be able to check in with yourself. What's really going on? Am I really hungry, or am I maybe just upset? Maybe I'm bored, maybe I'm angry, maybe I'm sad, maybe I'm feeling lonely. There's some emotion going on that is creating this feeling in you. So when you are aware of that, and you just need to know, okay, I'm feeling emotional upset or stress, you take your index finger and you start tapping that little dent that we have underneath our nose and above our lips. It's in the Cupid's bow, I think it's called. And that is an acupressure point which will help you de-stress. It helps you kind of neutralize that emotion that you're feeling by just accepting it and then letting it go. And this acupressure point literally removes the stress levels in your body, so you're counterbalancing that attack of feeling emotional. So take your index finger and just start tapping that Cupid's bow, that dent above your lip and beneath your nose, and then take a few deep breaths in and out. That would be the second step. Step number 3 is that you take a glass of water, and here we advise drinking a warm glass of water, and then drink it really slowly, because very often we're not hungry, but we're actually thirsty. So we're dehydrated and think we're hungry, and then we'll be trained, or we've trained ourselves to go and grab, food rather than drink a glass of water. So when you've done these 3 steps of breathing, of tapping your point, and then drinking a glass of water slowly, and you're still feeling hungry, then you could ask yourself, would I eat an apple? Because when we're really hungry, we'll be very happy to eat an apple. When we're not really hungry, but more emotionally hungry, we're not going to feel attracted to that apple. We'd prefer to have, a bagel, a donut, something usually sugary, something with a lot of carbohydrates in it, but the apple won't seem that attractive. So I found that's a really helpful thing to find out if I'm emotionally hungry. I always say, would I eat an apple right now? And if you would eat an apple, then, you're hungry, so you need to go and eat something, please. And if you say, nah, I don't want an apple, I want the donut, you can be pretty sure you're dealing with emotional hunger. So you can, again, tap your point. You can drink a glass of water. You can distract yourself by doing a bit of exercise, taking a quick walk, taking a big, deep stretch, a deep breath of air. And if you're still hungry, then eat a handful of nuts, maybe some almonds or a bit of cheese, a bit of protein, but try and stay away from that quick fix, which is the sugar fix for your brain of the carbs or the sugar, and eat something, but eat whatever you're going to eat really slowly and consciously and enjoy your food.
And what I would like to add to that is that a lot of the emotions are triggered by low blood sugar. So when we become hypoglycemic, then the emotions become more to the surface. And by doing just what Joy was explaining, we also teaching our body how to have a more stable blood sugar level. And that is also a great way to break through that addiction of sugar. And so it helps for both of that. There's another type of hunger that you can call habitual hunger. You look at your clock, you say it's 1 o'clock, and you go, oh, it's time to eat. That's not real hunger. That's just programming. Yeah. And a lot of people are just eating like robots because they following this kind of programming, which has nothing to do with real hunger.
Yeah, so true that I'd say that most people in our culture eat by the clock, or in any culture, and rather than really tuning into the body and seeing what it wants. And it's really honoring the body, isn't it, when we check in and say, am I hungry? What is it that I really, that my body need right now, versus eating because it's 12 noon.
Exactly. And, one of the biggest problems we create as parents is forcing our kids to eat everything on the plate. Yeah. So we get early on already these messages that we should not listen to our own bodies, but we just follow the rules. And that's where a lot of the problems really begin. And one of the things of conscious eating is that if you're full, you stop eating, and you don't care if food is left on the plate or not. You had enough, you stop. And I think for a lot of people, that in itself is a big challenge because of the old programming where you have to eat everything on your plate. So that's already a big victory when you can leave food on your plate. And so a lot of people, when they start with this program, have to conquer that part as well, that it's good to leave food on your plate.
No, I completely agree. All of that nonsense about people starving in China, right?
In our culture, it was Africa.
I know, but parents say that,
Yeah, absolutely.
It just drives me crazy. I wanted to bring something up which I loved in your book, because I felt like this for years and people keep arguing with me, is about breakfast. This whole myth that we have to eat breakfast, and if we don't eat breakfast, we're going to get fat. And I often am not hungry till about 11. I just don't like eating super early in the morning, and I'd love for you to support me and tell listeners about that.
We will. So you know what? Before we do that, let me say our website, because we didn't do that with all the talking.
Oh, right.
So people, if you would like to sleep your fast away, all you need to remember is the website www.sleepyourfastaway.com. sleepyourfataway.com. It's really easy. And there you can get the program, all the brain training audios and everything to get started. So sleepyourfataway.com.
And just to go where you just went, it's even worse. It is actually a myth that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. This has been actually one of the best tricks of the food industry. So this came out of nowhere. They just made this up in order to get us to eat the eggs and the waffles and the cereals. And so it's all literally programming.
On the other hand, it's about really, as we've said so often in this program already, but I'll repeat it just because it's so important, is that we need to start listening to our bodies. So, for instance, you've discovered for yourself it works best if you eat at 11. I've discovered that I need to eat in the morning sort of around about an hour after I get up. I need some food, otherwise my blood sugar levels go totally hayward. So it's really tuning into yourself and finding out what do I need right now? What does my body need? And not be dictated by some cultural pressure or, I don't know, some silly rules somebody made up sometimes.
And it can change. I mean, some days, you know, you may wake up and you feel hungry right away. That's fine. And other days, you might not feel like you want to eat something. Maybe you want a cup of coffee or tea or whatever, but you're not really, really hungry. And that's, I think, also part of the awakening of your consciousness, that your body is much smarter than, let's say, put it to your brain, and we should start listening to our bodies and really follow it, and also start to get into what does my body really need. I think one of the big mistakes we make, and this I'm saying as a holistic doctor, is that we kind of fall in the trap of eating the same thing every day. So we always will have cereals, always will have bread, always have eggs, and that in itself is very bad for the body. We also need to look at how to create variation in how we eat and not be, victim of the same patterns for years and years in a row.
Yeah, we're such creatures of habits, aren't we? And that is, Sleep Your Fat Away is all about changing those habits that you have related to food and your body, and re-examine them and find out what do I really need and what's going to help me shed that weight so I can be a naturally slim person. So it's more about installing the habits of naturally slim people, and those were the ones that we studied for Sleep Your Fat Away together with doctors and nutritionists and yogis and even Tibetan monks. We just researched and, really with a toothpick to find what are they doing different, what do naturally slim people do different, and how can we install those habits in ourselves and for those that we work closely with.
Yeah, you have like something on page 21 that I loved, which are the guidelines. You have these wonderful guidelines in your book about, eating when you're hungry and eating what you like and slowing down and stopping when you're comfortable and drinking water. And I think people are going to love that in your book, listening to the audios, etc. And I wanted just to point that out, that I think those guidelines are just priceless.
Thank you. Well, I like guideline 1 first, which is when you're hungry, eat.
Yeah, me too.
We don't listen to that. We'll feel hungry, but because it's, I don't know, we've been taught it's not the right time, or I don't know, it's not opportune, or we just don't want to make time for it at that time, we'll sort of override that signal of our body. So yeah, and guideline number 2 is eat what you like. It's about really discovering the taste of food again by re-examining and reading the labels and seeing, okay, is this really the best I can do for my body? You will find that people who follow the program say, their taste buds change. Suddenly, vegetables and fruits and organic foods are so much more desirable. And that is part of it, is because in the brain training programs, we will give you the idea and the suggestion that you are attracted to healthy foods again. So you will find it much easier to make those healthy choices.
And what I would like to add is that it's a kind of a spiritual part to it, and it's where even before you eat, you just tap into gratitude. Just be grateful that you have this abundance. Be grateful that you have this food. And you don't limit yourself in gratitude. You can be grateful for so many things, for having a body, to have a nice place to live and all those kind of things, because that creates an energy flow in your body that will help to heal the body and actually make you also more conscious what's happening in the body when we tap into gratitude. And it's a very nice way to start your meal, and we teach that as well to our children.
Yeah, and it helps also to be able to stick to guideline number 3, which is slow down, eat slowly and consciously. So that was what I was talking about, of limiting the distractions. Don't read your emails, don't read a book, don't watch TV, just eat. And then you'll also find that each mouthful of food just tastes so much better. And then you mentioned yourself guideline number 4, which is one of the crucial ones. I mean, they're all important, but this one really nails it down. It is stop eating as soon as you're comfortable. And you can only do that when you eat slowly, because when you eat so quickly, you will not notice how full you are, because it just takes those 20 minutes for the stomach to be able to send that message, for the brain to be able to process it, because the conscious mind is a bit daft. It's not as smart as the subconscious mind, so it takes a while.
Yes, it does. It does take a while. And so your guidelines are beautiful. I just loved what Roy said about gratitude. And, we have a couple minutes, but I wanted to maybe have you talk about gratitude, forgiveness, and not worrying. I have a saying that's in my kitchen that says, don't worry about anything and pray about everything. And it's actually from the Bible, and I'm not, that religious, but I love this plaque that I bought, because I think the worrying, creates the cortisol and creates the stress in our body, does it not? And not forgiving people and not feeling grateful. So I love that you had that in your book as well.
Yeah, it's core principles of all the other things we also teach when we go more into personal development. And forgiveness is a big item on my checklist and in part of my teachings, because it worry but also holding grudges is not only a terrible waste of energy, but it's so harmful to our systems. And, like Gandhi said, being angry with someone and not forgiving them is like taking a lethal poison and expecting the other one to die.
Right.
That's unfortunately not how it works, because the ones we're harming most when we're worrying or when we're holding grudges or being angry is ourselves. So, yes, we feel, meal times are such nice times to be able to connect it with gratitude, to re-experience how much we have, how many blessings we have in our lives, because we're often so programmed to think of all the things that we don't like that we forget to realize what's going well.
Yeah, and what I'd like to add about worrying is that it's like a kind of a reinforcement of your suffering. So yes. you already have a problem, whatever the challenge is. When you start worrying about it, you're making it bigger, and you actually are punishing your body for a challenge that you're having. So if you have money problems and you worry about them, basically you now also are creating a kind of a suffering in your body. And now you have 2 problems, no money, and then you get sick. That is not a good thing to do.
No. And we are winding down now, but I just want to say how much I've enjoyed having you on the show, and I hope all you listeners will get the book Sleep Your Fat Away and go to Joy and Roy's website, which is also sleepyourfataway.com, and look at their program, and I think that you will benefit tremendously from using it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's lovely being with you.
All right. Bye-bye. And thank you, my conscious listeners, for being here and for being willing to stretch and grow to transform yourselves and your lives. Next week, we have Gordon Asher Davison, who will talk about the transfiguration of our world, from the negative to the positive and from darkness to light. Until then, this is Dr. Susan, reminding you that you carry the light.
You've been listening to The Transformative Show, We Carry the Light, with host Dr. Susan Allison, the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. Who are you right now, and who do you want to be? What is it that makes you happy, helps you feel fulfilled, and living your purpose?
Tune in every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine.